Attention all pharmacy industry professionals. This isn't your grandfather's podcast. This is...
What the hell are you talking about? Our grandfathers never even listened to podcasts. The internet wasn't even around.
Shut your pie hole. My grandfather loves podcasts and so does my maca.
Your what?
This is the RX Rated Podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Did you say maca?
Put the fidget spinners away, punch in the coordinates for the jump to light speed, and do or do not. There is no try.
What kind of asshat introduction is this?
The podcast dedicated to all the pharmacy professionals in this crazy sector of healthcare.
What was that?
The RX Rated Podcast.
Dude, seriously? You already said that 3 other times. This is bullshit.
Welcome to the RX Rated Podcast. This is Dr. Jeffrey Wenger. I don't have a Twitter account anymore, so I can't give you a handle, but how about you guys? My co-host, Dr. Shaw, what you want to drop your handle?
Just follow me on RX Comedy on YouTube. Follow my channel. And on Facebook, I'm Maurice RX Comedy, my Facebook page.
And with us today is the Political Pharmacist. You want to drop any handles, sir?
You can find me at @political_RX on Twitter, or just Political Pharmacist is my page on Facebook, but my name's Eric Geyer.
So at the RX Rated Podcast, our MO is to be honest, straightforward, and not necessarily PC. So we're going to say it like it is. We're going to say what we mean what we say. But before we get into the political stuff, because I'm excited. I'm a political beast. I feel like you can really get to know someone through what they value as far as the entertainment industry goes. So can I ask you, just, you don't have to give me your top 5 or anything, but like, what are some of your favorite movies, TV shows, musical recording artists, stuff like that?
All right. Well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm one of those dorks who's mad because they killed the expanded universe and Disney did their Disney thing to it, because I read all the books before I could drive, because I lived in a small little town. I had nowhere to go, so I just read books. Music wise, I'm kind of all over the place. I listen to some old school country like Waylon Jennings and the old guys, but I also love like 80s LL Cool J and even some of the newer guys when it comes to hip hop. Like I love R&B and rap music, so I'm kind of all over the place with that too. Other entertainment wise, I'm also like one of those people who, luckily I live in Cleveland. We have awesome like Broadway plays, and so to get out, those are kind of nice too every once in a while. So I'm kind of all over the place. I'm a mixed bag of everything.
The important question is, do you like Prince?
Not a huge Prince fan. I had some techs who loved him, but I'm not.
No. Oh God, this is going to be a bad interview. Okay. Anyway. What generation are you? Are you a millennial, Generation X? What should we?
Yeah, I'm a millennial. I just turned 35, so I'm an older millennial, but definitely millennial.
All right, so I feel like I got a decent picture of the kind of guy you are. That's how I sum people up, is through the entertainment industry. So you're the Political Pharmacist. Do you mind telling us which end of the political spectrum you tend to lean?
You know, it's kind of weird. Probably the closest thing I would call it was, I'm pretty centrist, but I'm probably more of a libertarian socialist, where I believe that we should have programs in place to help people, when they fall on hard times. But I also believe in a lot of people's freedoms, and like the freedom of speech and freedom of like to do and say anything you want. But at the same time, I also think that when it comes to times like we're in now with coronavirus, we all need to just wear a damn mask and protect one another, protect everybody, and suck it up for a little bit. I think it's ridiculous that a mask and a pandemic has become politics these days, but probably a libertarian socialist is probably the closest thing to me.
I agree. I told Dr. Shaw that I wear the mask out of respect for others, because it's not necessarily that you're worried about catching anything, but you don't want to give it to anybody. And apparently, a lot of people who have it are asymptomatic, so you don't know if you have it, so you may as well wear it just to be considerate.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're on the same page.
So
what
far.
Well, what else? I mean, what do you think? What do you make of all this coronavirus stuff? It seems like there's a lot of people gathering in the streets for various reasons, and they're not taking it all that seriously. Are we seeing a spike? It's been a few weeks now since people have started to sort of say the hell with it and gather in the streets for whatever various reasons, but we're not. Are we seeing any spikes in coronavirus diagnoses?
It depends where you look. So interesting today, I just finished my first shift doing COVID testing where I work, and we didn't have a whole lot of cases, to be honest with you. So where I'm at in Ohio, we're not seeing it, but we took action early. We were aggressive with it. Our governor was truly just like, went against the grain for being a Republican with it. But a lot of those states that are pretty much south of the Mason-Dixon, you're seeing a lot of cases spike. Florida, Phoenix, Texas was having huge spikes, California too. So all the states that are getting warmer, people are going inside and then looks like spreading it back and forth. Whereas if you're north, like I'm here in Ohio, we're not seeing hardly anything. Michigan's got it on lockdown with Big Gretch up there, and New York has been doing really well despite where New York City was. They're making huge steps. So kind of interesting to see it flip like that.
That is interesting. And as we speak, I think Trump is giving his first press release, not press release, but like speech. Trump, what do you call it?
Rally.
Yeah, rally. So I don't know how that's going, but I guess in 2 weeks from now, we'll know how that turned out.
Yeah, well, 6 of his campaign staffers already tested positive just today.
That's true. I saw that.
All right, when people riot, are they wearing masks because that's what you're supposed to do, or they know that they're about to break in some shit and don't want their face seen?
It's crazy. We had a lot of riots up here in Cleveland. In fact, my store was shut down because of a protest. We didn't have any riot or looting, but
did you still get paid?
We did. We still got paid.
That's
good. But I saw people who were just posing for the Instagram and like standing on dumpsters that were flipped over, throwing up like peace signs and stuff. And I'm like, okay, like if you're gonna like go do it, have a point, that's fine, but don't do it for the gram on here. Like that's not the point.
Yeah, same here. The company I worked for changed our hours. It only lasted about 10 days. We usually are open till 9 p.m., but they wanted us out at 8 before it got dark because 6 of our stores in this area have been ransacked, and they didn't want us, there past sunset. So, but that has been lifted since then, and everything's cool. At my store, I haven't seen anything. Everyone's been cordial. The population. I work in a, I guess you could say, urban area, low socioeconomic area, mostly Black, and we have not had any problems at my particular store. So I'm glad to see that, but it does scare me when they start protesting in the streets. My partner worked on a 9 to 9 shift, and he had to leave at 4 p.m., 5 hours before close, because there was word that there was going to be a protest, and they wanted to make sure he could get home okay. So they closed the pharmacy at 4 p.m. just so they could make sure he got home, because they didn't want him to be stuck in traffic for hours.
We closed ours at noon, and there's a rally scheduled at 2. So yeah, and that was a weekend, but yeah, we closed 6 hours early one day.
What do you make of that? Are these people gaining supporters to their cause, or are they defeating their own cause?
You know what? I'm all for it, man. I've got a lot of friends who are like all over the country just because I'm in a pharmacy fraternity and I travel a lot, and I know people literally in every state. And seeing what a lot of my Black colleagues and people who are well educated and they're just sharing their stories, I was like, man, like I get it now. I get why they're doing it. And for me, it's a catch-22 because my brother-in-law is a police officer, so I see both sides. Like I get why, they're trying to, I don't want to say defend themselves, but they're asking for respect and what it is. But I also see the other side of people who have just countless stories of whether it be the brutality, abuse of power, or what have you. So I mean, I get both sides of it, and I think that we're finally, as a country, waking up to what minorities are facing, especially as white folks. I live in a super white city, even though I work in a very poor inner city area, and we had hundreds of people protest like down the street from me here in support of it.
Tell me more about your brother. So he's a cop. What is his take on all of this?
He's definitely in the Blue Lives Matter crowd. He's about to retire. He's been with them, I don't know, 25, 30 years. And he's worked the Vice unit. He's worked in some of the highest crime police districts in the US. Like, it's up there. I don't think it's number one or two, but it's up there. And, hearing his stories and stuff he sees, I get his side of it just because, I mean, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I forget when, they used to send the cops before they'd send the fire trucks because they would get shot at just for if there was a fire truck coming. So I kind of understand his side there of, hey, I got to defend myself. But at the same time, like, when you see these cases, like you're talking, obviously George Floyd, you're talking the Rashard Brooks, some of those other ones that they could just go way too far. That's where it's like, you know what, I think finally the technology's caught up now. We can capture this and then share it. And that is what's drawing attention to it so much, is technology's caught up now that we can fully appreciate what people like that are going through. Whereas myself and a lot of other people, I can't say that I would be drunk in a Wendy's drive-through, or I didn't do it in college, but that it would be a very different story if it was me versus what probably happened down in Atlanta.
Well, would you have wrestled a cop and stolen his taser and shot it at him?
I probably wouldn't have. I definitely probably wouldn't have. It's not my MO. I'm a runner, so if anything, I probably just would have taken off. But I still don't think I would have done that. But again, I was raised different than he is, so it's hard for me to be in his shoes, put myself in his shoes, if you will.
Agreed. I mean, it's you don't know what you're going to do unless you're in that situation, for sure. But
yeah,
I read something where it says police officers are trained. And then the way they train, like, if you can't arrest somebody in 3 to 5 seconds, you're probably in danger. And maybe that just needs to just be, that training needs to be switched. Because I think most of them, like, okay, I can't get this guy down in 3 to 5 seconds. I may be losing my life, or he may try to attack me. That's what they're trained. And I know my uncle, he just retired in December, and he's in Jacksonville, but he's calling all of his other buddies like, "Hi, I'm retired." But he asked them. He says that people are trying to take their guns from them. They're throwing urine at them and feces and just dragging them in the streets. And he's like, it's just kind of crazy how everything is kind of transpired.
Yeah, and that's the part where it definitely goes too far as a police officer. But at the same point, you have all these videos of hundreds of people. I mean, on average, in the United States, police kill about 1,000 people a year, 900 to 1,000 people. That's something. That's a serious number, especially when the majority of them are minorities. They're not people like me who are getting pulled over and in a suburb and something like that.
Well, I heard a number also that there are 375 million interactions between police and citizens in a single year. So when you take into account 375 million interactions, and you've got however many shootings and deaths and blah, 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 when you do the percentages, it doesn't look as bad as the media is saying it is.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you got to think of how many times is there, and this sounds weird, how many times is there a police officer there where there doesn't need to be? Like, if you're getting a speeding ticket, you need an armed guy there with a gun? Or do you just need somebody there who's going to be like, hey, there's your license plate number, we can mail you the ticket, like, slow the hell down next time. Think of like how many times there's a homeless guy, and I dealt with this in my store, where we're trying to get a homeless guy or a vagrant out of there because he's doing something stupid at the store. He's not doing anything really wrong. And we send an armed police officer to go interact with them instead of like a social security worker or a social worker or something like that. And so, I mean, I would love to see what the breakdown of those numbers are, as opposed to like, DWIs versus vagrancy versus loitering versus, assault versus homicide, suicide. That's something I haven't seen. I focus more on pharmacy, not police statistics. That's what I know, but
Well, there's a big push on the left now to actually defund and abolish police departments. What does your brother think of that?
He's not for that. I know he's not, because of what he does. And to be honest with you too, I know in the past he's had to go actually buy his own bulletproof vest to work as a street cop. Even on the Vice unit, he had to go get fitted and buy his own.
And he had to buy his vest.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's one of those things where you hear stories like that and you're like, Well, that's kind of messed up because it's literally they should have your back on that.
But doesn't the idea of getting rid of police make things worse in the communities that need them the most? Who's this going to hurt? If you get rid of cops, isn't that going to hurt the same people that they're claiming that they're fighting for? In other words, less cop presence is going to let the rogues run roughshod, as opposed to a greater cop presence will keep the criminal element in check. Or am I off on that?
No, I think you have a totally valid point. I think the difference is how you look at it. And I think a lot of it, when you ask people who are saying defund the police, what they're promoting is, we want that money to go towards social programs, to help people who are homeless, to help people who need a job, to help people who have addiction issues, to help all those other things. You don't need a police officer trying to, just arrest someone because he's addicted to drugs. We need to rehab them. And I think as a pharmacist, we can appreciate that. And kind of what goes into addiction isn't just arresting someone to get them off the streets and throwing them in jail. And prison right now is just full of COVID anyway, so you're doing them no favors by doing that. But I think that it's a lot of reworking the funds, if you will, to put the money where it could be most effective, right? Like if you think of all the things that go in a police officer, how expensive they are to run the car, to do this, for their life insurance policies, their health insurance, versus what it would be for maybe a social worker, you have a very different algorithm and different math equation to that. And I'm actually for doing things like that, as long as you look at it as a holistic picture.
Well, Dr. Shaw, you worked in a lot of violent, I guess is the best word, areas. What would you say? Would you want a greater police presence in those areas or a lesser presence?
I would definitely want a greater police presence. Just for example, like I worked at some dangerous stores. The one store that I worked at had a real police officer, even though there might have been drive-bys and shootings outside the store. We didn't have a problem in the store because he was walking around with a gun and he wasn't. Somebody started yelling about $2 copay. He's like, "Hey, Reese, you want me to take him out?" I'm like, "No, it's okay, Officer Robinson. We got it." But then when I worked on the west side, we had a cop. We had a security guard. All he had was a jacket that said security, and they didn't show him any respect. And they stole stuff out of the store, and they fought with the clerks up front. And so I definitely would want more police presence. I didn't know when they defund the police, does that mean less police or the police just won't get as much funding?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it depends on who you talk to with that. And to your point, I've worked in some very similar stores where we've had security and there wasn't a police officer, but we've had security who has a gun or a taser or what have you. And it changes when they're there versus when other people aren't there. I know what you mean with that, but we have private security and it's not a police officer. Is that the answer? I don't know. That's a whole different ballgame with that. But yeah, I've seen some of those people get crazy, and we've had people get violent in our store in the past. So I know what you mean.
What I think they need to do, they need to raise how much money police officers make, because I don't think police officers make that much. They'd probably, if they got paid more, they'd probably think a little bit more about doing something irrational. They need to put more laws in place to have people respect the police, because I know sometimes the police show up and they already just start cursing them out before they could even ask what's going on. And then they should probably have something like, make everybody wear body cams, and if you go the whole year without any marks, then you get like a 50-cent raise or 75. And if you get 2 or 3 dings because you hit people upside the head with the clubs, then your salary goes down by 75 cents. So then kind of incentivize them to, police better.
That sounds good to me.
You know what's crazy about that though? So and I look at everything like near me, right? Because that's what I know. In Cleveland, the cops make half to a third of what some of these suburb cops make. There's suburb cops that I've heard make over $100,000, $120,000 a year.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, that's great, but you literally have no crime. Like your biggest crime was like someone crossed when the sign wasn't green. Like what's the problem here?
What's your opinion on how the media portrays all of this? Because, when a white cop kills a black guy, he's called a racist. But when a a white cop kills a white guy, he's just called a bad cop. Are we interjecting race into this that shouldn't be interjected?
I think there could be. You know, I totally get that, right? Like and the problem with the media is if it bleeds, it leads, and they know that.
Yeah.
And so like that dogma has really caused them to sometimes focus on ones that, I'm not gonna say they focus on any wrong ones, because I don't know enough about all the stats out there, but man, like it is a catch-22, because this stuff definitely happens with white people too, but does it happen the same way in the same context or just as quick? When you look at a guy like Philando Castile, who was up there in Minnesota, and he did nothing wrong, and within, was it 12 or 14 seconds was shot dead off of his turn signal was out or something crazy. And so, you know, you have to assume there, like, what happened, given like what came out of it. But oh man, I think there's definitely, it gets blown up, but then sometimes if there's no camera, we look at everything that happens and it just gets swept under the rug. So it's hard for me to really say, because I don't know those statistics as much. But I think with more and more cameras coming out, we see these headlines a lot more than we did 10 years ago. Like, look what the iPhone single-handedly probably did for that.
Honestly, I think the problem is that cops are brutal and they need to chill out. And it's not really a racial thing, because they kill white people too.
Yeah.
It's the cops need better training and not be so prone to pull the trigger, regardless of the race of the person that they're trying to arrest or whatever. The problem is, if you're going to wrestle with a cop and try to pull his gun, and you're going to get shot. I mean,
yeah,
that's what happened to, what was it, Mike Brown? Is that the one that sparked the Ferguson riots? The hands up, don't shoot guy?
I think you're right.
He reached into the car. He tried to grab his gun. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're white, black, Asian, green. Don't try to grab the cop's gun. You're gonna get shot. Like,
well, and to your point, how many times does just having a gun there lead to the next step, right? Because it is that ultimate, can end someone's life instantly type of thing, versus a taser that can just kind of put you down, unless you have some sort of seizure disorder. Then it might be a different story.
So we should be more like Great Britain, and the cops shouldn't even have guns.
Yeah, I that's where I think you got to realign it a little bit, going back to like, who are we calling and why are we calling them? You know, do we need a guy with a gun on the scene, or do we need, you know, obviously if he's working security, that's very different than if they're putting out parking tickets, right?
You know, it's funny. I watched some of these two things. One, to what you were saying earlier, one of the points, I think the media shows a lot of, what was the guy's name, Dylan or whatever, that sat at that black church, had church with him, and then he killed everybody in there. And then they're like giving him Skittles and feeding them.
Yeah.
Other people who get arrested and they're doing minor things and they're getting body slammed. So I think that's the image that sits in people's heads more, is just that kind of treatment difference. You know, they probably kill white, you know, white cops kill white people too. But I think that image of that kind of enrages people, that, you know, how he was treated, and he murdered a church full of people.
Yeah. Well, and I've had, like I said, like a lot of my friends who are minorities, whether it be black or Hispanic, have all had stories where they've had a gun pulled on them, or they've been threatened, or they had to have a white person go to their defense. Not very many of my white friends have those stories. I know a lot more white people than I do minorities. So it's kind of like interesting when I look at like the difference in just like the percent of them, and I'm like, wow, that's a huge difference. And I've had a gun pulled on me before, and every time it's been a white guy. So it's, I'm sitting there going, all right, well, you know, it does happen that way, but I've never had the interaction of the opposite, like where race is an issue, if you will.
I have a similar story. I was with my wife and her two kids in a SUV, and I was driving, and I ran a stop sign out of a Barnes & Noble. This was in Naples, Florida, one of the most opulent cities in the country. And cop put his signal on, and I didn't know the etiquette. I stopped, and then I turned into a parking lot to park to make it easier for him. He didn't like that. He wanted me to stop right where I stopped. And he is palming his gun as he's approaching my door. And I see this through the rearview mirror. And I say to him, "You're not planning on shooting me, are you?" He's like, I hope not. He said something like that. And my wife said, "Excuse me?" And she's Asian. And he was a white cop. And I remember thinking, wow, I can't believe that for running a stop sign and not stopping when you wanted me to stop and parking into a parking spot, that you're palming your gun ready to, I don't know what he was expecting. I don't know what his history was. Maybe he's had bad interactions in the past, but I remember thinking, holy shit. And I wrote a letter to the Naples Police Department saying, this guy is on the edge. You got to do something about him. And they responded to me and said, yeah, we understand. We apologize. But Jesus Christ, even as a white guy in one of the wealthiest cities in the country, being stopped by a white cop, he was palming his gun at me for running a fucking stop sign. Am I allowed to cuss, by the way?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, shit happens. You know, Adam Carolla makes a good point. Let me say this real quick. Adam Carolla is a pragmatist, and they consider him right wing, but he's really not. He's just a common sense kind of guy. And he says, listen, if I'm walking into a building and the white guy ahead of me doesn't hold the door open for me, I don't think anything of it. I just think he's a jerk. But if I'm a black guy and the white guy doesn't hold the door open for me, automatically I assume he's racist. We got to do away with that kind of mentality. There are people who are jerks, and you've got jerks in your life. And if someone is a jerk to you and you're white and they're white, you just call them a jerk. But if you're black and they're white and they're a jerk, oh my God, automatically they're racist. And we got to stop doing that. Like everybody, there's a racist boogeyman behind every tree. It's like, I have stepkids who are in their 20s and everybody's a racist in their mind. I'm like, are they really racist or are they just jerks? Like if you were white, you wouldn't think they were racist and they would probably do the same exact thing to you. But because you're a minority, you're Asian, and they're doing this to you, you assume they're racist. We got to do away with that mentality. There's such a thing in this culture, in other words, as jerks. There's just jerks out there, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of racism that people just don't talk about, and it's we focus on black, white, but I remember one of my friends was like, "Yeah, my dad doesn't like my boyfriend because he's Greek and not Italian." I was like, "That's white on white racism." I was like, that happens a lot. Like we don't talk about it, but like a lot of interacting with a lot of white people, they'll tell me about different races or different things like that, or talk about Jewish people, and I'm just like, I didn't realize there's so much white on white hate. There's a lot of like Italians stick with Italians, Greeks stick with Greeks.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm not like it was just kind of like eye opening to me, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah, no, for sure, that definitely happens. And to your point, the opposite end. So I work in a very Hispanic area, and I know a little bit of Spanish, just enough to like get through a transaction at the pharmacy, and not really even enough to counsel somebody. And I had introduced myself to somebody. I asked them for their address, all in Spanish. And halfway through the transaction, they're like, "You're not the right skin color. Give me that girl over there." And she didn't even know Spanish. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I'm trying to help you here. Like, there's nothing going wrong. But to your point, there's a ton of white on white. I mean, Jesus, I can think of tons of friends growing up who are like, he acts that way because he's Italian, or making jokes because someone's German or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know if it's just okay, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we focus on black and white racism here in America, but I just think overall there's just a lot of just racism just in general. There's a lot of countries that don't like each other and things like that. They all may be white, but they don't like each other just because they're a different ethnicity.
Oh, I mean, we've had immigration laws against Chinese first, Irish after that, Italians after that. Obviously, blacks have had, slavery and everything go on, and segregation laws forever. I mean, and then, look at Trump and the Mexicans, like that's his boogeyman, if you will. And it just constantly goes on. And it's kind of shitty to see America like that, in all honesty, because I have friends of all different backgrounds. And I mean, like you said, if they're a jerk to me, they're a jerk to me. But like, it's, you got to call it like you see it, but also treat everyone equal and give them a chance at the same time.
I agree with everything you guys just said.
That's good.
What else, Dr. Shah?
I guess we probably should talk some pharmacy today. Zoom gave me a free gift. It says, "You guys running out of time? Don't worry. You can unlimited recording." I want to know what you guys thought about. Do you guys think that there will be a vaccine? And if there is, how terrible flu season is going to be?
Man,
Considering the fact that considering the fact that certain companies are cutting back on tech help, it's going to be murder because we're not going to have enough time to give all the vaccines that we're supposed to give: flu shots, pneumonia, hepatitis, and now corona. Like, where are we supposed to find the time to do this?
Yeah, that is going to be a huge issue for sure. Oh man, the only saving grace is, maybe I'm looking at this through like rose-colored glasses. In November, the Supreme Court is hearing the PCMA versus 49 other states case, which could let the states regulate the PBMs, in which case more money flows to pharmacy, in which case they staff up on hours and can still make more money so we can do this. That's my saving grace hope as an optimist.
Staff up on hours. That sounds good.
Well, this is my plan. I'm going to try and get 3 ml syringes, and I'm putting all that shit in one syringe. you're just getting it all in one. So if you want to add 4 vaccines, I still got enough room if you only want to do 2 or 3. And I refuse to be doing shot after shot after shot after shot.
And you got to administer it with a blow dart.
Yeah, I was a Boy Scout back in the day. Maybe I can do that. Get my old blow dart gun out and make some use of my skills.
Would you guys consider getting it? I'm going to skip the first one.
I've never gotten a vaccination in my whole life. Don't feel the need.
Really?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Customers ask me, "Have you had it?" And I say, "Yeah," but I know I didn't have the shot. But I just felt like I'm in an awkward spot. Like, "Did you get the shot?" "Oh yeah, I got the flu shot already." Like,
you've never gotten a flu shot, Dr. Shah?
No, I get them. I usually don't get them as early as everybody else. I just if there's some left, I get one. If there's not, then I just don't. Like,
I've never gotten a vaccination.
With my daughter in daycare, I feel like she brings enough stuff home that if you can survive that shit, you can survive anything.
I always get mine pretty early. I'm nerdy like that. I'm more of the straight lace when it comes to that. I figure I got to role model it if I'm going to try and tell people to sell them on it too, right? So, but I'm just wondering what you're going to put in that shot. You could probably do what? Shingrix. If they're over, have like you're over 50, over 60, Shingrix, pneumonia, flu, corona. What else we put in there?
Polio.
No, I'm just thinking I'm gonna put those 4 in there. And then that's about it. People really don't ask for anything else. Usually those people who ask for something crazy because they travel, I could just say we don't have it. But usually people don't do that and travel during those times. It's usually during the summer where you get those weird vaccines. Those are the ones that people want.
I got a question for Eric.
Yeah.
Are you a Cleveland Browns fan?
Man, yeah, I am. And it's been a rough go. My first Browns game was in '89 when they kicked the crap out of the Steelers. I think it was 49-0. It was like the largest beatdown they ever had of them. So I got indoctrinated well, but that was like the high point at age 5. And the crazy thing about that is I would go with your dad because he had season tickets back then. And my first Browns memory, I will not forget this. There was a Steelers guy who got beat up in the parking lot, which happened all the time back then. And then there's a Steelers guy who was beat up in the bathroom and thrown in what was the old troughs that they used to just pee in, like a big sink. So when I was 5 years old, my dad's like, "Well, you got to go sometime." So we just went, and there's a Steelers guy like right down the sink there, Like, you're just essentially like peeing on the guy, and you're like, what the heck? This is insane. So I've been a Browns fan ever since that day in I think it was 89.
The Browns have unlimited salary cap space, it seems like, because you guys just keep signing people after signing people, and you guys are trying to get Jadeveon Clowney. I'm just like, do they have unlimited cap space? Because you signed Odell Beckham, you signed Jarvis Landry, you signed offensive lineman. I think you signed the tight end. I'm like, damn, how much money do you guys have?
I'm just hoping they sign LeBron because we need some skill. Like, we need someone.
You guys should be good this year. Baker Mayfield could put it together because you guys got a lot of pieces. I guess it just depends.
Yeah, that quarterback spot's going to make or break everything, but that's football.
A friend of mine was talking, they were talking about signing Colin Kaepernick. And he was like, well, what would be a good team? And he was like, I think he should go to the Steelers because Mike Tomlin, he can handle everything and he's a black coach. I was like, I don't know, because they got Mason Rudolph. Didn't Garrett accuse him of saying the N-word? That might not be a good team to go to. Send him to Buffalo.
I think they cut him.
Oh, they cut.
All I know is Myles Garrett had a rough year last year. Some random fan, quote unquote fan, tried to give him like a high five or shake his hand, and then jacked him in the face. You got to be stupid to punch a 6'4", 280-pound lineman in the face and think you're going to get away with it. But the guy did somehow because Garrett's a nice guy.
Mason Rudolph did it.
With 3 other of his buddies around him.
Yeah. Our buddy over here is a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh.
What do you mean, oh?
They should be good this year, I think.
Yeah, they should be decent. It's just they're like the Browns, but they always like come in second. We just come in last.
We're gonna kick ass this year.
The only thing about the Bills is their quarterback runs a lot, but he's not very accurate. And they traded for a wide receiver that gets open, but will require the quarterback to be accurate. So I'm just kind of interested if he can improve his accuracy.
Let's place our bets now. Who do you predict is going to go to the playoffs? I predict the Bills will be in the playoffs.
I have to see how this pans out. Like, are people going to be able to practice? Like, if it's just the teams that, like, okay, NFL season's going, I'd probably say the Bills will make it because they don't have no mini camps. You can't train, can't do anything. If people make a few more roster moves, it's still time and people can practice. Then I think that, the NFL, the great thing about the NFL, it's never the same team. So,
yeah. Man, I don't know. If the Browns are on the cusp for me, I would probably bet on the Bills to make it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who's your team, Maurice?
The Bears.
All right. Sorry you got Trubisky. He's one of ours from Cleveland.
Yeah. Hopefully Nick Foles is a little bit better. The defense should be really good this year, especially since they drafted the best defensive end in the free agency to go with Khalil Mack, and we'll get our stud defensive tackle back. So if Nick Foles can just be okay, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question for Eric is, what did you think of the Star Wars series where you've got the the last Skywalker and all this crap versus the George Lucas trilogy versus the original trilogy? Where do you come down on all that?
Well, you're never going to beat the original just because it's, I think except for like, I don't know, one of those like, Wizard of Oz or something, it's the most watched film of all time. The highest grossing in terms of tickets. I think the original still wins because it broke records, it broke molds, and it like completely changed movie making. I actually think if you throw out episode 1, which had Jar Jar Binks in it, if you throw that guy out, that the other 2, or even the whole trilogy, was better than the last one, but by like a step, not by much. Just because if you look at the last trilogy, they just basically remade the original with different characters. Like, you still had a thing that was going to blow up a planet shooting a big laser beam. Like, there was no plot difference.
And she's such a Mary Jane. She's like good at everything. She can fly the Millennium Falcon. She can fight with a lightsaber. She has no training, but she can do everything. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, yeah. I agree.
Can I tell you guys a secret?
What's that?
I have never seen a Star Wars in my life.
Jesus.
I don't want to say I've never seen it. I've never watched it all the way through. I've seen, like, you cut it on, it's always, Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader fighting, or little pieces here and there. The thing is, like, when they would have these movies come out, and I'd go with my dad, and everybody's packed, and I'm excited, but I don't know the plot behind it. So then I get sleepy because it's so damn long, and I don't know who's who. And then by the time I wake up, it's over. I'm like, damn, I didn't even see the movie. So I tried twice.
Just watch The Empire Strikes Back. That's all you have to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the best one.
Yeah, that's the best one. Empire Strikes Back is the best one.
Next, you're gonna say you didn't see Rocky or something. I was like, man.
Oh no, I love the Rocky. Even the new ones, I've watched all of those, but that's Star Wars. You ready to end this show?
This was fun. We got to do this again.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe when the Browns make the playoffs, but just don't hold your breath on that.
We'll get deeper into the politics next time.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll let you two. I'll let you two critique Trump's rally after you watch it.
Just get the COVID test, and that's how we'll rank it, and we'll see what the highest score is.
Before we go, I was listening to the NFL. Listening to this podcast, ESPN Chicago, and they were talking about how the NBA has like 101 ways to make sure the NBA players are safe, and supposedly there's like these COVID rings they could wear that will let you know if you have it or not. And I guess it's you wear this ring all day, and based off of your sleep patterns and how many times you wake up, or it could tell if you have it or not. So they all have to wear these rings. It's called the Ovum or the Aura ring or something.
Huh.
Whenever I hear that,
I just get a little leery.
So they all have to wear these rings, and the guy hosting it actually has one, and he says he kind of likes it for working out because there's certain days where you think you should go hard, but your body is saying today is not a day that you should go hard. You didn't sleep right or something happened, and he uses that. But I guess it lets you know if you have corona or not. So all the NBA players, when they bring this season back in Disney, all have to wear this ring.
So, like, if LeBron goes too hard, is he gonna they're gonna Paul Pierce him out of the gym, and then he's gonna come running back in because it changes colors?
No, it's just the ring, and just let them know if he might have it, and let them know, okay, we need to retest, because you could test them for game one, and I don't know if they have to be quarantined in Disneyland, if they're allowing them to go out and come back. I'm assuming not, but
yeah.
Maybe game 4 he's somehow contracted corona. So hopefully, I guess these rings would help them know, hey, LeBron's body's acting a little different, doesn't have as much energy. He's waking up 18 times in the middle of the night.
Did Gwyneth Paltrow make these on Goop or something?
I don't know. Either it's a great gimmick, because if you came up with a gimmick ring to predict corona, and the NBA is about to buy all the players, you pretty much made a lot of money.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The NBA made 181 reasons. They did 181 ways to make sure NBA players are safe, and retail pharmacies did Gene Day. No barriers, no masks, no gloves.
I was on parental leave when that all hit, luckily, and when I came back, we still didn't have plastic, plexiglass up or nothing. So I was texting my DM, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, here's what I'm making. And he's like, okay. But I don't think he didn't think I was going to do it. I showed up with 5 huge things of plexiglass to completely block our window, except for enough to fit a Go Lightly out. And I actually even measured it. And he was like, I thought we were going to talk about this. I'm like, we did. You said, okay. I brought him in. And he's like, all right. And just left him up. So
that's nice. During Corona, you were on parental leave. I was on unemployment. I was at home fire looking at the news yeah, I guess it's one advantage to not being at work. I don't have to deal with this.
Yeah. I guess that's one way to avoid it.
Yeah, I remember my old pharmacy staff, they were complaining. They were like, "We're here, we're working. They don't have no gloves, they don't have no masks, they don't have no shields." So I'm writing the state health department. This Walgreens does not have any this and that, and they sent me a copy of a letter that they sent. But I used the fake pharmacist name, so. But they got masks and gloves and protective stuff about a week later, so I guess it worked.
Yeah, around here no one had it, but it was crazy to see how fast the independents moved. A lot of them closed down, and then they were like curbside pickup only, like right away. And I was like, damn.
A lot of the food, like the pharmacy food chains, like I went into some of them, like the pharmacy was closed. The cashiers all had plexiglasses. Like everybody was quick to react, even like dollar stores, except for like the healthcare, the pharmacies, which you would think would be the fastest to react. But
Yeah.
Ready for our outro?
Anything else?
All right, I guess I will do the outro after you send me the MP3. I'll
Okay.
intertwine the outro.
Okay, and then I'll send you the audio. We have this intro, which is actually pretty cool. It's like warning. This is the RX Rated podcast, and I will get you that as sometime today or early tomorrow, whenever Zoom sends me this.
Okay.
It was fun.